allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Blower?
Yes.
Trustee Patterson? Present.
Move for the adoption of motion 23-016 to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the January 5th, 2023 regular meeting. Need a second?
Second.
Discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson? Yes. Trustee Blower?
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-017 to approve the minutes of the January 5th, 2023 regular meeting. We got a double? You make sure I'm right.
Yeah, the first one dispensed with the reading
Okay.
and the second one approved.
Need a second?
Second?
Discussion?
No, thank you.
Roll call.
Trustee Patterson?
Yes.
Trustee Blower?
Yes. Fiscal officers report.
All right. Coming around for you to review and sign will be the certification of purchase orders. Since the last meeting, please keep in mind there is an occasion or two to continue create a 2022 purchase order since I have not closed the year yet. And then also for your consideration is the certification of checks written. The electronic payments or the ACH payments are a little out of order, and I explained on here. There were 4 or 5 electronic payments that were approved at the last meeting that were out of sequence, and were a little bit out of sequence because I processed payroll, even though it's not active till Friday. So it puts things just a hair out of sequence, but I notated that
Okay.
on the certification. Also in front of you for review is the receipt export since the last meeting. There were 2 receipts I wanted to highlight. One is the National Opioid Settlement. We received a disbursement from that organization on the 12th or 13th of January. But I found out today that we also received a $15 wire charge for the receipt of that. And I'm going to look into that because I don't understand why we're being charged. I mean, I
They
understand.
charged us for the wire?
Yes, and if we send a wire, we would be charged 30, but to receipt a wire is 15, and that's First Financial's policy. But I am going to attempt to reach out to the organization or the Ohio Attorney General's office to ask, did we fail to set up something properly on their portal, which I don't understand because we're receiving the funds. We've received other opioid funds that we didn't receive a wire charge for. So if there's a different way, if they could do electronic transfer, ACH, direct deposit, that would be great. But, you know, I'm trying to save $15 everything's good. The other item I wanted to point out is we are in receipt of the ARPA Law Enforcement Violence Grant funds in the amount of $235,000 and some change. And I know that Chief Roberts will have more on that during his, so I don't want to steal it. Moving on, there's also in front of you for your consideration is a appropriation status report as of today, January the 19th. There's not a lot going on that, but there's a little bit. Finally, I believe, and finally, yes, coming around for you to review is the completed December bank reconciliation. Although I had said I didn't know if I'd have it ready, I do. So December 22 is technically closed, but I've yet to close the year. So I won't be doing that until after I return from the OTA conference. There's just been too much IRS requirements this week to move through. And then finally, I want to thank you for your consideration. If the meeting would get much past 7:10, I'm going to have to quietly scoot out as my son has an event at the high school, and him being a senior, I don't want to miss this. So you'll just have to excuse me if I decide to quietly get up and move. So with that, that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me?
I have none.
No, Randy. Wonderful.
Chief Burton Roberts presents new full-time officer Alex Betts for hire.
I'd like to recommend Alex Betts to be hired full-time.
Move for the adoption of motion 23-018 to hire Alec Betts into the position of full-time police officer at a rate of $27.04 per hour. This employment is subject to the completion of all pre-employment testing and in accordance with the current staffing summary and pay rate resolution. I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Patterson,
Yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes. Mr. Betts, if you would step up here with me by the township emblem. Stand over there for me, sir. Get my glasses. This way, please. Raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Alex Betts,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support this Constitution
and the laws of the United States of America,
and the laws of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of Ohio,
of the state of Ohio,
and the laws and resolutions
and the laws and resolutions
of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio.
of Ross Township, Butler County, Ohio,
And to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
will discharge the duties
will discharge the duties
of police officer
of a police officer
of Ross Township.
of Ross Township.
Welcome. If any members like to get a picture, you can do that now. Sure. Chief?
Gonna grab my phone.
Where's our?
What's in there?
Dad? Yes, sir.
I'll take a picture with that if you want to go up there with them.
Yeah, we can, Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I was just waiting.
Yeah.
Much better. That's good. Thank you.
We'll get the chief in here and I'll step out.
I think she wanted to get it.
She's
gonna get in there too.
Okay, DJ, why don't you?
Yeah, get the whole family up.
Yes, everybody, come on up there, yes.
Family thing.
A lot of us.
Between the flags, there you go.
Excellent. You want one with the other phone too, or?
Send it.
You can just, we'll
Yeah.
transfer to us. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Sorry, you got 45 people taking pictures. I think one of them.
Get the back of the head.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'll have them set at certain angles.
Congratulations, bud.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I think this one was Julie's.
No, I think
So you don't have to adjust.
Might not be set differently.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little lower.
And I'm a little higher. So I should have just swapped them. There we go.
You did mix them up.
Yep.
If that's family, you're more than welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting, or you can go ahead and,
Celebrate somewhere else.
yes, your choice. We try to be exciting, but. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
You're welcome.
Nice to meet you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow morning. Not too early.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to department reports. Administrator.
Good evening. Tonight, administration has one resolution for your consideration. It's the annual housekeeping resolution. It sets appointments to various boards and committees, adopts the policy to cover travel expenses for elected officials, and sets the sale of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit township personal property, which is usually done by an internet auction. Typically, this annual housekeeping resolution also sets the meeting schedule for the year. However, we're going to wait and do that once the new trustee has been appointed. Do you have any questions about the housekeeping resolution itself?
I have none.
Okay. Next on the agenda, I received a letter from Verizon Wireless in regards to the cell tower that they have on township property. We originally entered into a lease arrangement with them in December of 2014. The original lease was for $14,000 a year
for 5 years. After that, the lease could be renewed in 5-year increments, and it had an increase factor of, a renewal factor of 15%, I believe. In any case, currently, the current 5-year arrangement that we're in, the amount we receive per year is $16,100. We have received a proposal with a new rent amount that would total $11,820 a year. So a substantial decrease. The rent escalator remains the same, 15% for every 5-year increments, and the additional renewal terms, 5 additional 5-year renewal terms remains the same. So I don't know why we would enter into
Lower.
an amendment to this contract for a lower amount. Trustee Patterson might have some insight based on Monroe's past experiences.
Yeah, so in the city of Monroe, we have an attorney that handles this for right-of-way ordinance and cell phone towers. I did not talk to him. I spoke with the city manager and just said, have we experienced this before? And his response was, if we have, we send it off to the attorney and the attorney says no. And so the idea is it will cost them far more than $5,000 to site a new site and build a new tower, with steel being at 18 now, almost a 300% increase. It probably would make sense, unless they can justify some reason for the reduction, which I doubt. That tower's not getting any smaller. Would make sense to push back on this and say we're happy to maintain where we've been with the appropriate leaders as optioned, but why we would take a step back doesn't make much sense. So you have any questions or thoughts, anybody?
I agree.
Okay. Also not on the agenda is just to let the board know that next week, Wednesday through Friday, the fiscal officer and I will be in Columbus at the Ohio Township Association Conference. And finally is a nuisances update. I have been in communication. Actually, the communication was initiated by the tenant with the junk motor vehicle on Cincinnati Brookville Road. And he is earnestly trying to deal with that particular vehicle. And that's all that administration has this evening.
Thank you, Lori.
You're welcome.
Fire Department, Chief Miller.
Thanks, Keith. Later on in the meeting, there's going to be a motion for the board to consider hiring part-time firefighter medic Chris Sanders. Chris is a longtime Liberty Township firefighter medic, and he just recently took a position with Fairfield Township as a captain in charge of one of the battalions. And since he's moved over, he's looking for a place to work part-time. Chris will be a PRN, which means he won't have a set unit day, but will be available to work when he can and when we have an opening. So I've known Chris a long time. He's an excellent firefighter medic, and I think he'd be a good addition to our department.
Thank you. Anything for the chief?
I'll have for you.
Thank you.
Road.
Road Department, Paul Bulak.
We have a meeting scheduled on February 9th with the Butler County Engineers Office, informing you that trustees are invited to attend if you'd like. Lori and I will be there. It's a planning session. It's basically, they're going to tell us what any kind of work they're going to do in our township on their roads. We talk about paving and anything that we need from them, just a general discussion. And it's at 9:00 on February 9th. If either of you are interested, let me know and I'll add you to the list. That's all I have.
All right, thanks, Paul. Have anything for Paul?
I do not. Thank you.
Police Department, Chief Burton Roberts.
I think we finally have come to an agreement on the lease with Norris Tactical. I believe Dawn has made all the corrections and suggestions, and Norris Tactical is provided the final lease agreement, hopefully for you guys to approve so we can move forward. We have cleaned out the back area. It looks 1,000 times better. So hopefully they can start doing construction on it, which should not take very long in the next couple of weeks, as long as everything gets, that you guys approve everything. So secondly, as mentioned earlier, we did get the ARPA funding. So you should have heard a big boom earlier this week when it hit the bank. So that was good news. Alex, the gentleman that we swore in today, was the first person that we've hired using the ARPA funds. Hopefully, March, the other person will graduate from the police academy, and that'll be the second person that we'll be hiring using these funds. And then we can also use the remaining funds that have been allocated with this grant to give retention to the officers that have been here for the past few years. So that's great news for us. Bad news is apparently Ross Township is not considered a rural community anymore. Not sure how that is figured out, but we lost out on the grant for the rural community violence grant that I applied for. Somehow we are attached to being a greater Cincinnati subdivision. When I spoke with the people that put on this grant, I said, we're not even in the same county as Cincinnati, but to the powers that be, they determined that we are not a rural community. So we lost out on that grant. And finally, I provided you guys with our 2022 end of the year report. As you can, some of the highlights for it is in the last 3 years, how much our calls for service have greatly increased. In 2020, we were doing 4,101 calls for service. Last year, they increased, or 21, it was 7,154. And then in 2022, they went all the way up to 7,868 calls for service for the year. And the other highlighted part of the report is we did 800.5 hours of training last year for the Ross Township Police Department. So I think that says a lot for the police department and the officers and the training that we provide for them. So, but we're going to post this also on our Facebook page and on the website as well, just so the residents can see the entire report, and it has all the pictures from the community events and the school resource officer and all that. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. Anything for the chief?
No, thank you.
Okay, moving on to public participation. Got anybody signed up for public participation? Just Representative Jennifer Gross?
Everybody, just wanted to return and just thank you for allowing me to serve you. I am now officially your Ohio House representative. We are now District 45 and Ross is part of District 45. Every month we will be having a town hall, except for when we're on break, maybe July and August and December. I've had 16 town halls in the last 2 years. Our first town hall will be Monday, January 30th, Fairfield Municipal Building from 5 to 6:30. We'll have one and I'll rotate throughout the district, once in Westchester, once in Fairfield, and then the third one, Ross or Morgan, depending on where we have it at that time. I just want you to know that it is my honor to serve you. It is my goal to protect your liberty and freedom. I, number one, swore to uphold and defend, as the officer did today, the Constitution of the United States of America and the Constitution of Ohio. I hope that at least 80% of the time that you agree with my votes and the way that I represent you. I want you to know that my aide, my legislative aide, Jacob, is there to serve you. You are our number one priority. He is my number one. And then you are second, because without him, we cannot serve you the way that we have grown accustomed to serve my constituents in Ohio. I cannot emphasize to you enough that I think about you often, that I will represent you to the best of my ability, that you matter to me. And then when I vote, that I think about you. I think about what you would say to me when you look at me and say, what the heck were you thinking when you voted for that? I will always stand for you. This is not a game, and it's serious business at the state. I am available to you at any time, and I serve you gladly as a combat veteran, practicing nurse practitioner, previous business manager of a $3 million territory for Eli Lilly. So I come to you with a background and knowledge to serve you well. I hope that I will. It is my honor to serve you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Gross. Russ, did
I
you?
was just gonna ask about the Verizon thing. I'm all for playing hardball with them, but will it affect people's service out here? You know, if they say, okay, we're leaving, does it affect our cell service? So just a balancing act there.
And will it affect their business model as well, right? I mean, those are all good questions. I think we'll see what they come back with and how they respond.
What they're probably gonna say.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's what I would say if I were them.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, moving on to township business. Do we have any old business? Anything from the administration? Anything from the board? I have nothing.
I do not have anything.
New business? Anything from the administration? And anything from the board? I have nothing. Moving on to announcements. A public hearing on the proposed updated Ross Township Land Use Plan will be conducted at the beginning of a regular Board of Trustees meeting that is scheduled for Thursday, February 16th, 2023. The public hearing and meeting will be held at Fire Station 102 at 1308 Ross Millville Road at 6 p.m. Anything from the board? I don't have anything. Correspondence, anything from the administration? Anything from the board?
No, we're.
Okay, we'll move on to resolutions. The Board of Trustees must establish policy annual to allow for travel expenses, reimbursement, appointment its members to various boards and committees, and declare intent to conduct an internet auction for sale of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit township personal property for the current year. This resolution adopts those housekeeping measures. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-009, confirming appointments to various boards or committees, adopting an elected official's travel expense policy, and declaring intent to conduct an internet auction for sale of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit township personal property for fiscal year 2023. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
No.
Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Earlier in the meeting, the police chief requested entering into an agreement with Norris Tactical LLC to establish a law enforcement training facility at 4055 Hamilton Cleves Road. This resolution authorizes that agreement. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-010, entering into an agreement with Norris Tactical LLC to provide space for law enforcement training facility at 4055 Hamilton Cleves Road, and authorizing the township administrator to execute the agreement. I need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Just thank you to everybody. That contract went through a lot of versions.
Yes, it did.
I appreciate the effort.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Earlier in the meeting, the police chief requested entering into an agreement with sub-grant award agreement with the Ohio Department of Public Safety Office of Criminal Justice Services for its American Rescue Plan Act Law Enforcement Violence Grant. This resolution authorizes that agreement. Move for the adoption of resolution number 2023-011, entering into a sub-grant award agreement with the Ohio Department of Public Safety Office of Criminal Justice Services for its American Rescue Plan Act Law Enforcement Violence Grant in the police department, authorizing the police chief to execute the agreement, establishing grant fund number 2274 entitled ARPA LE Violence Grant, budgeting receipts and making appropriations for expenses, and requesting an amendment certificate of estimate resources from the Butler County Auditor's Office. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Closing action. Move for the adoption of motion 23-019 to pay the bills as presented through the fiscal officer's certification of purchase orders. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-020 to hire Chris Sander to the position of part-time firefighter medic at a rate of $18.57 per hour, subject to passing all pre-employment testing. This action is in accordance with the current staffing level and pay summary resolution. Need a second.
Second.
Discussion?
Just chief, by all accounts, he seems like a great addition from everyone I checked with.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-021 to retire to executive session to discuss the appointment of a public official in accordance with Ohio Revised Code, section 121.22 G1. And the time is 6:25. Upon completion of our executive session, there will be no further township business conducted. Our next meeting will be February 2nd, 2023 at 6 PM. Thank you all for coming.
Second.
Oh, I apologize. I need a second.
Second.
Thanks for catching that. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Patterson.
Yes.
Trustee Blower.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you all.
You ready?
Yes.
Move for the adoption of motion 23-022 to return from executive session to the regular meeting. The time is 7:32. I need a second.
Second,
Roll call?
Trustee Patterson,
yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23, and do you want to add the last two numbers, 024?
2-3, and then we'll change the,
Okay, 023 to appoint Administrator Lori Kyle as the acting fiscal officer for the purpose of taking minutes for this meeting. I need a second.
Second,
Roll call?
trustee Patterson,
yes.
trustee Blower,
Yes. Move for the adoption of motion 23-024 to adjourn the meeting. I need a second.
Second,
Roll call?
trustee Patterson,
yes.
trustee Blower.
Yes.